Stehpen Espinoza says Terence Crawford doesn't have the ability to pick the weight of the Errol Spence rematch. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red, but let's talk about it. Alright, y'all, so a few weeks back, it was reported that the Terence Crawford Errol Spence rematch clause had been activated and Errol Spence wanted the rematch, but then a few days later it came out saying that Terence Crawford wanted the fight to take place at 147 and not 154 like everybody thought it was. And now we have Stehpen Espinoza coming out and saying that Terence Crawford doesn't have full rights to make the fight back at 147. I just wanted to give my take on what is being said for anybody listening.
Not going to happen this year at this point.
Is this true? Like, I read that Crawford can choose the weight. Is that accurate? Because he won the fight?
Not completely. Not completely. I mean, there's some other parameters I don't want to get into, but, it goes into it.
All right, y'all. So, what is going on, man? This has been a wild, bumpy ride for the past few months, and it's getting even more interesting because I just saw an interview with Stehpen Espinoza, and he said that Terence Crawford actually doesn't have full permission or rights within the contract to pick the weight of the rematch.
Well, the contract states that either one or the other got to notify, in writing that he no longer can make the weight. If not, then the fight will be at 47.
Now, he didn't say he could. He didn't say he couldn't. He said it's not completely true what's being reported. So I'm not exactly sure what he means by that. But obviously, there are some other things in the contract that Terence Crawford might have glanced over and didn't fully understand. Because the way that Stehpen Espinoza put it, he was asked a question, and the question was, we all heard that Terence Crawford wanted the rematch back at 147 because he was the winner. And Stehpen Espinoza said that's not completely true. Now, what could he mean by that? There could only be a yes or no answer to that question, you would think, but obviously it's a little deeper than that. So, I'm guessing there's some type of stipulation in the contract that forces the fight at a different weight if certain criteria are met. Now, what those criteria are, I don't know, because Stehpen Espinoza even mentioned that as well. He said that there are certain criteria within the contract that he doesn't want to mention because of contractual reasons, but those are what actually dictate where the fight is going to take place at. Now, what could those criteria be? Could it have been pay-per-view sales? Could it have been gate sales? Could it have been how good the fight did? Could it have been something that they both have to agree to? Now, I would think that it's that. I would think that there was something in the contract that both guys have to agree to. Aha! Now, whether that is that both guys have to agree that the fight happens back at 147, or both guys have to agree that the fight would happen at 154. Now, my thing would be that if they both have to agree to the weight, then I think that counterparts or counterparties involved in this, like the people who wrote the contract, if they can't come to an agreement, then those people are going to actually pick where the weight takes place at.
Let me say something.
So if both guys can't come to agreement, then you have like an arbitrary that steps in, and the arbitrary picks the weight. And I would believe that the arbitrary would be PBC because they're the ones putting up the money. So, and if you think about it, if it comes down to an arbitrary argument or arbitrary having to step in and make the weight, then they're most likely going to pick the weight that fits for Errol Spence, because they control the money. So to me, I would say that the fight's going to take place at 154. Now, that would make sense to me because it seemed kind of like Terence Crawford was really peed off about something in the contract, the way he came out and started to question the details and even put it out on that guy's podcast who had the interview with Terence Crawford about a month ago, and Terence Crawford kind of broke to the public that, well, either you have to put it in writing or I get to choose the weight. Now, I'm guessing that Errol Spence probably actually petitioned for that. Terence Crawford just was never notified, and since both guys haven't agreed to either or weight, like one guy wants to go with 147, the other guy wants to go with 154, then the arbitrary steps in and the arbitrary PBC pretty much picks the weight. So I'm guessing that's how it's going to go down. Stehpen Espinoza did not say that that was the criteria to make the fight, but he said that there are certain criteria that has to be met for the weight to be decided. So if those criteria haven't been met, then obviously a third party, or arbitrary, has to step in to actually fix that problem. And what he didn't actually say was that he anticipates the fight to happen at 147. And if he didn't say that, I would anticipate the fight to be happening at 154, and that would make sense to me why Terence Crawford seems so peed off about the weight. Now, is that fair to both sides? I think it's fair to both sides. If one guy wants it here, another guy wants it there, you get an intermediary to come in, or arbitrary to come in and fix that problem. That way it's fair for both guys. You know, Terence Crawford actually had a handshake on the fact that he would want to fight at 154 with Errol Spence after the initial fight was over with, and perhaps that handshake is now binding because they both agreed to that verbally, and they're going to go off of that verbal agreement to actually make the fight at 154. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, if it plays out in that way, then it's unfair to Terence Crawford because he don't want to fight him at 154.
It's going down tonight, baby. Strawberry. Ooh.
But Terence Crawford's been trying to fight at 168. He's been trying to fight at 160. He wanted to fight Jermell Charlo at 154. So, you know, it would definitely make sense that if you're willing to fight all these other guys, you should be willing to fight Errol Spence at that weight too, since you guys can't agree on a 147 rematch. And Errol Spence doesn't seem too keen to want those 147 titles back. So
one thing I don't do is fear. It stops you from doing things. I think it's because of what I survived in the street, the people I survived around. I've been lucky enough in a very bittersweet way to deal with my fears very young. So the illest fear for me was to lose my mom's, and I lost her. I know how that feels, and I dealt with it. I know I'm strong enough to move and work wounded and still have a good life. Like, I can go through everything everyone else is scared of.
So y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on the tube. So holler at me over there. If you want to collabo, feature a product or your channel on my channel, feel free to hit my Gmail, because it is a flacocard@gmail.com. And we are
If you're from the field, you know I'm fucking with you. If you're from Kentucky, you know I'm fucking with you. You ain't never heard of me, you wanna get familiar. Well, my nigga, let me paint a picture. 12 motherfuckers splitting 3 bedrooms. Dang, my nigga, let me get some leg room. Every single night we watch the 10 o'clock news. Young black man murdered over tennis shoes. Every year we move to a brand new hood. Had to fight a nigga just to make it understood. Bitch, I learned to fight from Wayne and your nucky. First thing they taught me, nigga, swing if it touch you. Moved out of town when I turned 19. Seen $400 pounds of light green. Moved back home before I turned 20. I guess you could say that was the birth of Louis Keys. It was time to let these niggas know my name. Young Real introduced me to the game. He was rapping too big back in the day. When they had Daddy Yo and Hurricane, they was getting beats from Willie Will and Lil J. Can't forget young sirs, they did they thing. That motivated me to do the same, and I did it. Spit it so clean, they thought I came from a dentist. This is for my niggas with the chain gang sickness. When you make it home, I got some change and some bitches. No hook, but they still play it in the club. 7 grams of the loud, paid about a dub. Cause I know the plug and I know the outlet. Feel snapback I got ain't came out yet. Nigga, please listen to the game that I'm slinging. Tax time come around, I claim like I'm banking. Ain't nothing worse than $1 million bitch that'll fuck for a purse. I need a nurse, I think I'm getting sicker. My nigga Dose came through with 2 bottles of liquor. This is for my nigga Moski and all the other real OGs.